Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Tara. We talk about TV shows here. The year is 2023 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is going to be Season 5, Episode 20. It is called Objects in Motion, so full spoilers for the episode as always. And somewhat surprisingly, this largely like tied up a lot, well, not tied up, but it sent a lot of the characters on their way this episode. I feel like it was like tying off a lot of like characters' stories until, you know, whatever we're going to do in the finale is. I guess what I'm saying is I expected a lot of what was in this episode to be in the next episode, so I have no idea what episode 21 is going to be.
I agree. I guess, I mean, it's just Sheridan and Delenn after this, right?
Yeah, and even they say, like, oh yeah, Mimbar's like new home is going to be a week away,
ready in
maybe.
like a week.
Yeah, which I guess you could read as like a meta thing, like, oh, that's next episode kind of thing. But you know, Jakar's gone, Lita's gone, Garibaldi's left with Elise by the end of this episode. So we've got what, Delenn, Sheridan. I guess Zach's still there. He's not leaving. I guess he's sticking around. We have number one. She's now she's become a regular right before the show ends, effectively.
Good, yeah. Good for her.
if we even see her next episode, which I don't know if we will. It just kind of depends, I suppose. But
I guess Franklin's still there. He's leaving, but like,
that's true. He's not left yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even he had kind of like a final moment with number one that almost felt like a nice little happy moment before. It almost felt like a goodbye scene in its own way, even though it wasn't a literal goodbye.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what this next episode's going to be then. They've left me kind of open. And what's funny is that all of the stuff with Garibaldi and Lita, they set up last episode and they reference it in this episode. Lita has a line where she's like, if you've not got all this ready in 2 years, I'm like, oh, is the finale in 2 years time then? is that what we're doing?
Maybe. Maybe the next episode's 2 years and then we get the finale.
Which is...
That's like further ahead.
Yeah.
18 years?
I mean, if there were... Well, yeah, well, you're jumping to Sheridan's death. If I was to make a... I mean, it could include both these things, but if I was to make a guess as to what they might want to include some of in a future thing before the show's done, it would probably be some resolution to helping Centauri Prime in the future, because Sheridan got the request from Londo, of course, to help his people because they've been taken over in secret. So maybe still, if not like a full, like, this is them winning that fight, but some sort of hint that, hey, it's happening, Sheridan's either done it or has done it already when we see him or something. I don't know.
Do you think Sheridan has like chosen to not remember that time travel that he did, where he did talk to Londo in the future? Because when he's like talking to Londo last time they were together, and he's like, oh, Londo's acting strange, and there's a different motivation for him all of a sudden. I mean, he knows what happens in the future.
That's a good question. I wonder if it's the sort of thing where all the timey-wiminess of it messes with his memory, but something will, like, trigger it. Like, maybe when he actually gets to that point in the timeline,
he'll have the deja vu moment.
Kind of. Well, because in a sense, because the show has never really presented us with the idea that someone's going to change the course of history, but more so that something can be done about it now that we know about it. So I guess it would be kind of weird if Sheridan ended up fixing it before it really got to that point. If anything, it does make more sense that he's going to fix it in the future after that interaction with Londo happened. So in that sense, it would be okay that he doesn't really remember until it happens again, if that makes sense.
Or maybe he's deliberately chosen not to get involved until then because of timey-wimey stuff. Doesn't want things to be different. But even still, like, you would think, you know, when he would notice something and there would be like a musical sting that says, he knows that this is the beginning of the end of Centauri Prime or something. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he completely remembers right now. Yeah, that would be what I'd say. That's what it feels right now. But the actuality of it, I'm not entirely sure. But
I do wonder if we get a follow-up, even if it's just a reference. Like, let's say everything's already happened in the future, we're already past it, if there's some reference to how he helped with that or something. But that would be the most likely thing. I mean, everything else, like, yeah, okay, I expect some payoff to this, like, help me get Bester and I'll help you fight the Psycho, or, you know, thing that they've set up.
It'd be great if we saw Bester one more time.
It would be cool.
Comeuppance.
Maybe that's for the next episode. Maybe it's 2 years later and it's the fall of Bester and Psycho, or it's like how Lita takes them down.
That'd be cool.
With the power of ginger telepathy.
You always knew there was something up with those gingers.
Well, we were making all the jokes about the sexy straitjacket last episode, and
it's
later in
back.
this yeah, well, not only is it back, but later in this episode, she breaks the handcuffs herself, and Jakar says, well, if you could break them yourself the whole time, why were you wearing them? And she's like, I made everyone feel safer, and also, I kind of liked it after a while. I'm like, oh, so did you like the sexy straitjacket as well, then? Is that what you're getting at?
I don't know.
And that sounded quite kinky. That was definitely a kinky wink,
It was
wink,
definitely
nudge,
meant
nudge.
to be that way.
Yeah.
I just don't know how I feel about it.
I mean, she's a telepath. Regular human stimulation's not enough for her. She like, it's all after her time with
Talia made that clear, you know, in the Ironheart episode.
Yeah, after Byron, I have to assume that she's like, nah, the regular sexual intercourse isn't enough anymore. It has to be spiced up with
Sorry, Zach,
sexy
you never had a
straitjackets.
shot.
He does get his little, like, you know, he comes out after she leaves, like he wanted to say goodbye, but he couldn't quite work up the courage to actually come out and
She
say something.
seems to have moved on from the regular ass humans.
She does, which is a little bit. I felt bad for Zach a little bit. Like, he was never even in consideration.
Maybe he'll get some closure in the finale.
Well, number one's already with Franklin, so I don't know. I don't know if he's. Is there anyone else Zach can woo on the station? Well, I mean, there's 250,000 people, I suppose, but the people we know, I mean, you know. Like,
I don't know. I don't know. No one deserves Zach.
No, the one. I know Lockley's around, seemingly available.
She's busy.
No. No.
No, she's busy.
She's busy. Is she? Okay. I didn't see her doing anything this episode. She wasn't there.
Notice how you didn't see Bridge Boy this episode also.
Oh, you think there's a conspiracy at play there? Lockley's realised what an asset Bridge Boy can be to a healthy command hierarchy on the bridge.
The oldest trick in the book.
Oh dear. So yeah, I mean, there's kind of a bunch of different things that happen this episode. It mostly felt like a checklist of like everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of characters getting their goodbyes and moving on to whatever's next. There's a little bit of a plot, and I phrase it that way because it kind of only happens for like half the episode, but there's like a whole assassination thing going on where someone's there to kill Garibaldi and Elise, which turns out later when Garibaldi makes Lita read his mind, the assassin, that it's the board of her company that wanted rid of her. And so there's a little bit of a like, okay, when's he going to attack? How are we going to catch him? But they kind of wrap that up like halfway through the episode, and then there's a lot of, again, all this epilogue
A lot
stuff.
of goodbyes. Yeah.
Because I mean, Garibaldi gets this extended scene where he kind of threatens all of the people on the board, and it's a good.
The Orson Welles led board. It reminded me of old Orson Welles.
I can see it. I like, it's a fun enough scene, but it does take like a good 3 or 4 minute scene out of the whole episode.
Yeah, it's a chunk.
It's quite lengthy. But this is the scene that reveals that number one from Mars, the blonde lady, in case you're not remembering who number one is, not Riker, just for anyone, we're not crossing the streams here.
No cross the streams.
Yeah. She's taking Garibaldi's old job effectively as part of a way to try and help Mars's independence, because Earth's giving them a lot of shit. So they established that's going on. Her and Franklin rekindle the romance a little bit. That's a thing that's happening. Jakar, so they do this thing where there's an assassin coming for Garibaldi and Elise, but Jakar upsets one of his loyal followers so much that he turns into another assassin for Jakar, which is the assassin that actually gets a shot off at Elise. When Zach pushes Jakar out the way, it's a whole thing. There's a whole mess of people happening.
It seemed very John Lennon inspired to me.
I mean, I get that Jakar's like sick of this shit though. Like this would be driving me up the wall. All this. Because,
well, I mean, you shouldn't put yourself out there on the internet like this, Peter. Like, you're going to have hordes of fans and followers and following you to the movie theater, to the grocery store.
I am nowhere near charismatic enough to get that kind of following. Let's not pretend anything, okay?
You don't think you could do a Jakar speech?
I mean, I'll do it. I'll tell everyone how much I hate them right now if they want. I mean, I'm not, I don't mind, but...
Not that kind of speech.
Jakar's whole thing. Oh, he's very inspirational as well, which he often does. Even in this, he has a couple of lines with a few of the characters. He talks about. I don't know if it was Lee he was talking to when he's like, no, it was Sheridan, where he said something to the effect of, you know, we're leaving this place, and you know, like, I'm happy that part of me will be leaving, but I'll be sad that part of you has been left behind here. I can't even repeat it. It was so poetic what he said about like leaving like a home and forgetting the people or missing the people that are going to be there, and it was very nicely done. I can't even begin to try and say it back because it was very eloquent. But
well, I mean, he's such a good actor, Andreas Katsoulas. He was a great actor, so I feel like he could read a cereal box and it would sound like Emmy Gold. Yeah,
but he gets frustrated because to be fair, this fan guy, this fan Narn, I should say, is like, he's like, oh no, you have to either stay here and teach us or go home and lead the planet. Like, you've got an obligation. You're not allowed to pick anything else. Like, he gets really like entitled about it, and I'm like, it's almost like JMS was sort of like just like envisioning toxic fandom and like a little bit ahead of his time.
This doesn't exist.
Oh, come on now.
Oh, I'm sure he got lots and lots of letters.
Yeah, I'm sure Babylon 5 does have some toxic fans. But because it's a lot more niche than like a Star Wars or a Star Trek, I definitely think of those as having a lot more of
Oh yeah, just wait until there's like a reboot or something though. Then all the toxic Babylon 5 fans are gonna come out like, we own this. This is ours. You guys aren't allowed to like it because you don't appreciate it.
Oh dear. Oh, and they'll try and say that, this is, Babylon 5's so woke now, it's gotten so political. I'm like, did you watch the original show?
No, it's only for the blue-haired people.
I've actually seen people say that about Star Trek, though. Like
it's so funny.
It's just like...
of course I've heard it. I mean, a lot of them, their favorites are Deep Space Nine, and like, I don't know if you don't remember, like even I barely remember, but I know having a black commander on the show lead the show was a huge deal at the time. And then Janeway comes along, like, a woman, a woman captain. But anyway.
Yes,
it's always been there, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same with all this shit. X-Men's the other one. It's like, like X-Men is so political. It's like the most political, like mainline comic book. At least it's Inception. I mean, these days it's whatever because
I mean, I remember when Hugh Jackman was cast and everyone said he was too tall to play Wolverine, and that was the biggest deal. Like, come on.
Yeah. To be fair though, one of Wolverine's characteristics is that he's supposed to be like 5 foot. Like he's a tiny man. Right.
I just can't imagine anyone else playing Wolverine.
I mean, yeah, you're used to Hugh Jackman now, but like, I almost wonder if there was like just like an entire group of nerds who were all short people who were like just living like, our one hero that was for us.
This is mine.
Right, especially the Canadian short people. It's like, my one Canadian short man hero, and you've ruined him with this tall Australian.
All dear. Canadian men are 6 foot.
That's totally not true. Anyway, so
that maple syrup. It's another HGH form.
Anyway, so we got all these things being set up. Garibaldi at least get married. Because Garibaldi just like, let's just make sure we get married before anything bad happens. I want it just in case we die.
I thought it was a little bit funny that he's like, you almost died and I almost didn't get half your stuff. Can you can we just get this going so in case you die?
Yeah, I mean, at least as a very wealthy woman right now. You know, she got a lot in the previous.
He got a preach, but not preach, a preacher, but he didn't get a prenup. So that's what I was trying to say.
Why would he want a prenup though?
Exactly.
She would want the prenup if anything.
He's like, I got you right where I want you. on painkillers, just completely agreeable to everything I say. Just sign this, honey.
Now, maybe this is coming from someone who has no money, right? But I feel like half of a marriage, a potential marriage, saying, "Hey, I want a prenup," would instantly make me go, "This is not because I want half of your money, but the fact that you want a prenup does not give me a lot of faith in what you think of this potential marriage." It would just put instant doubt in me. I mean,
it does, but like statistically, they're in the right to ask for that because most marriages do end in divorce. So, I mean,
well, just accept that it's a gamble, and
yeah, or you could just like make prenups just a mandatory thing.
I mean,
I don't know why it wouldn't be a good idea.
Well, isn't the whole point of like you know, in the traditional sense of the wife getting half the money is that this is all back in the days when wives were mostly housewives, and it was like, well, they can't support themselves because they've not been building a career, so like getting half the money, and even then was it alimony? Is it still called that when it's just for the wife and not for the kids? Whatever, doesn't matter.
I think so.
Yeah, but you know, the idea was that, well, potentially this housewife who's never had a job or hasn't worked since she was, you know, very young would.
But you could still work that all out with a lawyer and get alimony, like if this is all that you have.
Sure.
But it doesn't, and you can still get that with a prenup.
So you can still get alimony, you just don't get half of the stuff, like.
Yeah.
The total. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. If I marry Jeff Bezos and then it doesn't work out, I don't get to get like half of all of his stuff.
Then what's the point? What's the point of marrying Jeff Bezos?
I'm probably going to be okay. If this is what I'm used to, and you know, although he could probably hire better lawyers, but like, who knows?
I've got a feeling he has the most expensive lawyers on the planet. Just a hunch. Just a hunch.
He could afford to pay me right now. Wouldn't even notice that the money was gone.
You can afford to pay me right now.
Well, get on Twitch.
Hey Jeff, pretend we were married and you need to pay me alimony. Oh, thank you, bye.
I'll just take an apartment.
Oh dear. Okay, this is good off the rails, this one. Oh, to be fair, I think this episode is kind of interesting in its focus, and I think because it is kind of a checklist of just sort of like sending characters off and whatever their, it's not quite their endings because we have 2 more episodes, but it feels like an ending for now for a lot of these characters. Is, you know, Garibaldi going to Mars, but at least is kind of his happily ever after to an extent, even though we know that there's some more bits to come. Sheridan going to Mimbar with Delenn, that kind of feels like that too. Same as Jakar and Lita. You know, this all feels like endings for these characters, and maybe we'll have a bit more, but
even though like they said next week is going to be when we move and stuff, if we don't see their actual like last week on Babylon 5, I mean, they did make a point of saying like, let's just walk the whole station at the very end. So that does feel like they're getting their closure then also. So if, you know, the next episode does take place a couple years ahead and they're already on Mimbar, they still also kind of got their goodbye in this episode.
No, I agree. Like, that's why I'm saying I don't even think the next episode will just be the last few people who have not left yet. It feels like we're already at the point, you know, because even like we said with Franklin, even though he doesn't leave quite yet, it still feels like that scene with number 1 was kind of like a little you know, happy ending for him, literally, but it sounds of it the way it was going.
Heyo.
He was like, hey, do you want to come back to my quarters? It's closer to medbay. And she's like, yes, please.
Ooh, that line worked this time.
So, you know, like, I do, it's almost a critique of the episode that the plot with the assassin it almost felt like by the time I got to the end of the episode, I'd completely forgotten about it because it was like such a first half of the episode thing that I don't want to say it was an afterthought, but it did feel like it wasn't the focus in the way that it normally would be.
Yeah.
In most episodes. So you've got that. Did you like this little bit of lore? I appreciated this. Is that the comm links on their hands? They do not use adhesive, and that's actually how they spot that the adhesive, like the guard who was killed, like his comm link had been spot, is because it had some sticky, you know, residue on it, right?
Just a suction cup.
I was thinking more of a glue, but sure. But and maybe they've mentioned this before, but they say here for, you know, because it's important here, is that they actually stick to your hand because it's like genetically like linked to your own stuff,
molecular,
like DNA. Yeah,
blank blank,
yeah,
blah blah blah.
it was some mumbo jumbo, but it made enough sense in context.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought that was a neat little touch. I think I liked it because it's something that they probably got questions about for years while the show was airing, like from nerds, like, oh, how do these comm links stick to the hands? Like, they take them off and put them back on. How does it work? And I feel like either they
or is it like permanently installed onto their hands? Like, does every citizen get one, or is it just like a job title thing? I have questions about them.
Well, no, they're not permanent because we've seen them take them off tons of times.
I don't remember any of that.
Tara, it literally happens all the time.
I believe you.
I literally
my memory ain't so good.
Well, I just said it happened though before you said that. I already said the thing.
I forgot.
So no, but I wonder if they always had that, like if JMS always had that, that's how they worked in his head, and this was just them getting to it, or if it wasn't really something he thought about and he just got so sick of like hearing the question that he put this little thing in right towards the end, just this little explanation.
I did notice that he swapped it out with one that had a different like speaker pattern on it. And I thought, I wonder if they have like different patterns based on like their job or rank or whatever.
Or it could just be if you went to get one this year, you got this model. If you went to get one this year, it was this model.
Maybe it's just a newer model. Yeah.
I don't know. The speculation can only go so far, I suppose. So yeah. But yeah, no, it was nice to see Garibaldi tear up a little bit and talk about everyone, even Londo, who have kind of become his family.
He was talking about Delenn and Sheridan like they're surrogate parents for him. I'm like, you guys are like the same age. But okay.
I think I was thinking more siblingsy, but yeah, sure.
Never really knew my parents. And you guys? You guys are great.
I don't think he was trying to say that they were surrogate parents for him, but I see why you're saying that, because he did start by saying he didn't know his parents very well.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think it's a sweet enough episode with some nice little bits to send off the characters, but the actual plot of the assassin feels very undercooked because it's just kind of over very quickly. And the stuff with Jakar's fan, just like, I enjoyed it, but it was kind of enjoyable in a funny way. I did enjoy the scenes with Lita though, and like Garibaldi coming in and being like, hey, like, make him talk, I don't care if it's admissible, just do it. And it's just like, well, since you asked nicely. Well, we are having some technical difficulties, but we're pretty much wrapping up the discussion anyway, so we'll wrap it up. And you know, we'll look forward to these final 2 episodes and see what they have to bring. I'm curious. It's funny because like, I feel like with most shows, there's a lot of pressure on the final episodes to deliver like a satisfying conclusion. But with Babylon 5, I feel like I already got my satisfying conclusion a while ago, and this has all been kind of like overtime. So there's a lack of pressure for it to deliver anything, really. I'll just be pleasantly surprised if it's anything, you know, super meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this whole season has not been like pointless, you know, but it does feel like DLC. Like we got an extra bonus season.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. DLC. And it does make you wonder, like, how the structure would have played out had they didn't, you know, if they didn't think season 4 was going to be the last one, if they thought they were getting 2 more seasons at the time, how they would have structured the rest of the story.
Yeah.
You know, it may not have changed everything, but it probably would have moved some stuff around and maybe been paced a little differently. But you know, this is something to imagine. And if we ever do get that reboot, which, given the way the CW is just like not doing stuff right now, I highly doubt it at this point, to be honest.
Me too.
But
we are getting an animated movie, and soon.
We are. So, but yeah, let us know what you thought of this episode of Babylon 5, and we'll be seeing you next week for episode 21, the penultimate episode. So we'll see you then. And you know, as always, you can support all the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and you know, support us for free by simply liking, subscribing, dinging the bell, all that usual stuff, sharing us on Twitters and whatnot. But that is the show. So thank you once again. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.